Hello everyone, my name is Zenitsu and I'm back with another Digimon deck profile video. So today I'm going to be taking a look at BT12, and BT12 offers us lots of new and powerful tools to be able to build and iterate on some new and existing decks. And today's deck I'm going to be taking a look at is going to be a brand new deck introduced in BT12, and that's going to be the Hunters deck. So the Hunters deck is a relatively easy deck to make considering how self-contained it is inside of the set, so you don't need to invest in a whole lot of outside parts and pieces to be able to have a playable deck. And this is a pretty strong deck that takes a lot of notes and pages from the Crosshearts deck, where it's going to try to utilize the save mechanic in combination with our tamers to use our tamers to gain lots of good passive benefits and be able to make our Digimon even more efficient to use than they normally would be. So with all that said and done, let's just dive right into the deck profile. Starting off with the Digitama, it doesn't necessarily matter which of the two Digitama that you use. They're both just trying to help you draw cards at the end of the day, but I'm going to be running one copy of Kozenimon just because I'm not looking to actually hard play my other Digimon very often to be able to get the card draw benefits from this card. And instead, I'm going to be running 4 copies of Monimon, just because I'm actually going to try to use my Digimon more aggressively, and this rewards me for using my Digimon aggressively, just because its on-delete ability is what's allowing us to draw a card. Next, on to the rookies, I'm going to be running 3 copies of Ekakimon. So Ekakimon, like a lot of Digimon in this deck, are going to have a special Digivolution condition where you basically get to ignore the color as long as the Digimon has save within its text, which all of the Digimon do in this deck. And what we're trying to actually utilize this card for is his inheritable ability to be able to toolbox what inheritable abilities we're going to be shoving underneath our Digimon to try to make our Digimon as powerful and effective as we can. And the inheritable ability we're gaining off of this card is giving the opponent's Digimon a nice 2000 DP debuff, so that way we could use it in combination with some of our other cards to be able to delete the Digimon or just make it easier to swing over. Next, I'm going to be running 3 copies of Dracmon. So this brand new BT12 version of Dracmon, we're not actually trying to utilize for any of its native abilities, so we don't really care about its on-play ability. The on-delete ability is pretty nice for when we're trying to be aggressive with it, just because it does have the save ability, so at worst it's going to allow us to draw a card off of our main egg and shove them underneath our tamer, and the inheritable ability is what we're actually looking to try to use this card for, just because it's going to be giving whatever Digimon we're going to be using in combination with him an extra 2000 DP to make them a little bit more aggressive. Next, I'm going to be running 4 copies of Gumdramon. So Gumdramon is one of the core cards for this deck to use, just because his on-play ability we actually can and do want to use, just because it's helping us set up our tamer while offering us some extra card draw to cycle through our deck, adding to its overall consistency, while him also having that on-delete ability of save to be able to tuck him underneath our Digimon to make even using him a little bit safer, so that way we could be as aggressive as we want with our cards. Then the inheritable ability that we're gaining off of this card is just some extra card draw, which is always good to be able to add to the overall consistency of the deck. And then the last rookie of the deck is going to be 4 copies of the brand new Psychemon. So Gumdramon is going to be shoving cards underneath our tamer, and this is a way to be able to take the cards underneath our tamer and add it to our hand, so that way our tamer is basically acting like a secondary resource or a holding area for some of our parts and pieces that we're going to be utilizing. Then he also has the on-delete ability of save, so again, we could try to use this card aggressively, and if it does get deleted, then it's just going to hide itself underneath our tamer, which is where we want it to be anyway half the time. So that way we could use our tamer to be able to shove this card into the inheritable abilities of other Digimon, so we could gain advantage off of his inheritable ability, which is exactly the same as Gumdramon's, where it's just allowing us to be able to draw extra cards. Next, on to the level 4s, I'm going to be running 4 copies of Shoutmon King version. So this brand new Shoutmon King version, like a lot of the other Digimon, have that special Digivolution condition where we basically get to ignore its color requirement as long as it has a save in its text, which all of the Digimon in the deck do, and that's just going to be a running theme with our higher level Digimon going forward. Then this card has some pretty good usability just because its on play and when digivolving ability can trigger, allowing us to be able to help set up our tamers, so that way we don't necessarily have to waste time hard playing our tamers. And then on top of that, he even has a nice on delete ability of save, so that way we could be again aggressive with this card if we need to. And the benefit of utilizing his save ability is because he saves more than just himself, and we could place a Digimon with a save in its text from our trash and put it underneath our tamer as well. So if we're able to add cards underneath him, or we just used him to digivolve, then he's going to be saving more than just himself. And the inheritable ability that we're trying to gain off of this card for when we're using it in combination with our other Digimon is a nice when attacking ability to be able to delete some of the opponent's low-level Digimon. Next, I'm going to be running 3 copies of Damemon. So Damemon is doing something very similar to King Shoutmon that we just saw, except the big difference is he's not going to be playing our tamers, he's going to be helping dig out our tamers, which just adds to the overall consistency of the deck. He has that same on delete ability that we just saw with our King Shoutmon to be able to save more than just himself, and on top of that, he even has a nice inheritable ability for our deck to use, which is allowing our Digimon to be able to have access at the blocker ability for some extra defensive lines of play. Next, I'm going to be running 4 copies of Arresterdramon. So Arresterdramon is the card we're actually going to try to be as aggressive with as we possibly can, just because when we digivolve up into him, as long as he has 2 or more digivolution sources underneath him, which isn't very hard because we could set that up utilizing our tamers, then he's going to have access at the rush ability, so that way he could swing right away with if we played a brand new Digimon and digivolved it into Arresterdramon. Then on top of that, he also has that on delete save ability that we just saw with our Damemon and our Shoutmon King version, and the inheritable ability we're gaining off of this card is exactly the same as what we just saw with Psychemon and Gumdramon, where it's just adding in some extra card draw. And then the last level 4 of the deck is going to be 3 copies of Clockmon. So Clockmon, unfortunately, we can't really digivolve into this card, but that's okay considering he's costing as much as some of our rookies, so it's not like hard playing him is that bad of a play anyway, especially since he natively has the blocker ability, so we have more access to some defensive lines of play, and he even has an on-play ability that's adding to the overall consistency of the deck, while him also having the on-delete ability of save, so that way he has that built-in protection to at least shove him underneath our tamer, so that way we could use his inheritable ability to give whatever Digimon we're pairing up with him the jamming ability. Next, on to the level 5s, I'm going to be running 2 copies of OmniShoutmon. So OmniShoutmon is going to be one of the main cards we want to try to be aggressive with as far as our level 5 Digimon go, just because when we digivolve up into him, then he's going to delete a low-level Digimon on the opponent's field, and the bigger his inheritable stack or evolution sources is, then the more range and reach that he'll be able to have with this ability to delete the opponent's Digimon. Then on top of that, when he has a nice healthy stack, then he's even going to gain Security Attack Plus to allow us to deal some extra damage onto the opponent. Then he has that same inheritable ability that we saw with our Shoutmon King version to again try to delete the opponent's low-level Digimon. But the main level 5 of the deck that we're actually trying to use is going to be 4 copies of Arresterdramon Superior Mode. So Arresterdramon Superior Mode has a really powerful when digivolving ability that's an alternative form of removal, so it could bypass a lot of protections that the opponent's Digimon could have, where we're going to be shoving their Digimon underneath another one of their Digimon or underneath one of their tamers, and the reach increases the more different colored tamers that we have in play, which we're running a lot of different colored tamers already. And then on top of that, he even has a really interesting secondary ability where at the end of our turn, if he has enough Digimon in his Digivolution source, then we could attack with this Digimon without suspending it, so that way we could use it in combination with other cards, like Damemon's inheritable ability of Blocker, to have a nice offensively defensive card. And then he has that same inheritable ability that we saw with the other Digimon in the Gumdramon line, like Arresterdramon and Gumdramon, where it's just adding in some extra cycling when we attack it with our save-based Digimon. And then the last Digimon, and only level 7 of the deck, is going to be 2 copies of Quartzmon. So we actually can use Quartzmon inside of this deck without the need of a level 6, just because he has a special Digivolution condition where we could Digivolve him for 9 on top of a level 5 with save in its text, which all of our level 5s have save in its text. Then, for utilizing this card, we get his when Digivolving ability to suspend all other Digimon and Tamers, and then for every 2 cards suspended, he's going to gain us 1 memory to potentially make him cheaper to Digivolve into. And then on top of that, he has a nice all turns ability that's going to keep all other Digimon and Tamers from unsuspending. So he's basically stun locking the entire field. And on top of that, he even has a when attacking ability to continuously try to suspend cards that aren't suspended. And then if enough cards are suspended on the field, then we get to trash the top card of the opponent's security, so he can deal some pretty decent and safe damage in of himself. Next, on to the Tamers, I'm going to be running 4 copies of Taiki Kudo. So this brand new version of Taiki Kudo is going to be one of the core engine pieces for the deck, just because we're going to be using his primary ability to add cards underneath him and be able to draw cards for doing so. And then he has that secondary ability where we get to use the cards that are underneath him to reduce the Digivolution cost of one of our Digimon and add a card underneath him to the bottom of that Digimon's Digivolution source. So not only is he making Digivolving into our Digimon cheaper, but it's a way to be able to add Digimon to their inheritable sources to be able to make our Digimon more effective. Next, I'm going to be running 3 copies of the brand new Yuu Amano. So this new version of Yuu Amano is doing almost the exact same thing as we just saw with the brand new Taiki, except this card is going to be gaining us a memory instead of drawing us a card when we're shoving our save-based Digimon underneath him with his own ability. Next, I'm going to be running 3 copies of Tageru. So Tageru is another card that's going to help us add cards from our Tamers underneath our Digimon, on top of him being the deck's dedicated memory setting Tamer. And then the last Tamer of the deck is going to be 3 copies of Watchmaker. So Watchmaker isn't necessarily going to be helping facilitate our deck's overall engine. He's just going to be another digging or searching tool to increase the overall consistency of our deck, while also having the potential to add some extra damage output when we have enough Tamers in play to be able to give our Digimon Security Attack Plus. And then the last card and only option of the deck is going to be 1 copy of Overflowing Power. So Overflowing Power is another card like Gumdramon and like Psychemon that's going to take advantage of utilizing cards underneath our Tamer as a secondary resource, where we get to Digivolve our Digimon from underneath our Tamer like it was in our hand, so that way we have alternative ways to be able to try to make it Digivolving into the Digimon we want or need more consistent. And then as far as the overall game plan and gameplay of the deck goes, you're just basically trying to play your Tamers and set your Tamers up, so that way you could try to utilize your Digimon as efficiently as you possibly can. So you're going to try to utilize your raising area just to hide a Digimon in raising, then raise it out and use either Damemon to help dig for your specific Tamers, or you're going to use King Shoutmon to set up your specific Tamers, and once we have our Tamers set up, we're just going to try to passively shove cards underneath, so that way when we Digivolve our Digimon into another Digimon, we get to use our Tamer to be able to add it to its inheritable sources, so that way we could reduce the cost of the Digivolution, making it easier and cheaper to use, on top of the fact that we want our Digimon to have lots of sources for when we're going into our level 5s to gain as much benefit off of our level 5s as we possibly can. So the deck is kind of centered around trying to be able to make your level 5s as efficient as you possibly can. And once we feel like we're in a comfortable position with our level 5s, that's kind of when we could just digivolve it into a Quartzmon and try to predict and time a Quartzmon to really ruin the opponent's overall game plan and gameplay. And there is just a lot of like really interesting synergies between a lot of the abilities that we want to have and can use with our Digimon. So as an example, we have Arresterdramon Superior Mode that we could use in combination with Damemon to have a card that's able to attack while not being able to suspend, leaving him open for Damemon's inheritable ability to use. Then we have Shoutmon that wants to be paired up with Clockmon, just because Clockmon's going to be giving us jamming, and Shoutmon is going to want to have security attack plus. We also have Arresterdramon, and if we could have a Quartzmon sitting on the field as well, this is also a pretty powerful situation just because our Arresterdramon doesn't necessarily need to suspend to be able to attack the opponent, which doesn't fall victim to Quartzmon stunlocking everything on the field, including some of our own cards. So there is just a lot of like subtle synergies between a lot of the cards, like utilizing the Shoutmon's ability in combination with Ekakimon, utilizing Ekakimon to use with Arresterdramon if we have enough tamers in, just for some cheap aggressive plays because of the rush ability. So it's just a lot of just pairing up what kind of abilities you want and how to figure out how to best utilize those abilities. But before I get into other cards and talk about different ways to be able to approach the deck, first we have to understand what is the actual core of the deck that you're going to want to start with before editing from there. So as far as what the deck's core is, this is kind of just where I think that the core of the deck lies, where your level 3s, you're going to want to have the constant of Gumdramon and Psychemon, so that way you have ways to be able to put cards into your tamers and take them out when needed. You're going to want to use Damemon and Shoutmon King version to be able to dig for your core tamers, while also having the ability to play said core tamers. Then you're going to have Arresterdramon for some good aggressive lines of play, on top of Superior Mode as the primary level 5 of the deck to just remove stuff and synergize with Quartzmon as the designed and desired level 7 of the deck. But the deck, it does have some pretty decent and flexible options in terms of various other tech and tools that you could incorporate inside of the deck. So if you wanted to run another cheap rookie that has the save ability and can synergize with the deck, then you have Shoutmon. But if you just want another card to try to help put cards underneath your tamer and synergize more with the purple aspect of the deck, then you do have the BT12-005 as another possible card to use. Then, as just another generic save-based card, we do have the brand new BT12-Shoutmon that we could also think about utilizing. Then we do have Tawarmon that has access at Digivolve, which is some pretty decent removal potential to disrupt the opponent's overall game plan and gameplay. Then there are just a couple of other cards that interact with having save in its text that have some pretty decent inheritable abilities that you could think about utilizing. Then as far as other level 5s of the deck go, outside of OmniShout and Arresterdramon, there isn't too many great options. We do have Ostamon as another card to interact with Psychemon that we're already going to be running, and Quartzmon that we're already going to be running. Then when it comes to other level 7 Digimon, we could just throw in Death X just because it doesn't require much of anything to be able to make this card playable and usable. Then, because we're already playing a lot of purple cards, we do have some pretty decent and powerful purple cards that interact with deleting our Digimon, which our Digimon don't care because they have the save mechanic, so that way they're going to be tucking themselves underneath our tamer as just another way to be able to put Digimon underneath our tamer. So Demonic Disaster gives us some extra attacks, while Calling from the Darkness allows us to be able to grab back cards from our trash. Then, because we also have a little bit of red, and we do have the potential to have some decent amount of security attack plus, we do have just a couple of other utility options and potential removal options that we could think about utilizing, again, depending on what you're expecting out of any given meta. And then as far as some really interesting alternative tamer options go, we could think about running the old Yuu Amano as basically like a battery to gain some benefits for when our Digimon are going underneath our tamers. And then we even have Analog Youth as just a good generic tamer to use, especially in combination with our level 5, just because we can make sure that our level 5 is always going to have an inheritable source, while it being another cheap consistency tool. And then we do have the other hunters that we could think about running, like Ryuma and Suzaki, as two of the better other hunters. So that's all I really have for this video. As always, feel free to tell me your thoughts down in the comments below, and down in the description below are a couple of different ways you could support me and the channel. So I do have a TCG Player affiliate link, so when you use that link to buy cards off of TCG Player, then some of that money will go to supporting me and the channel. I also do make and sell playmats over on Overcard Gamers on Facebook, so when you buy a playmat with my design, then some of that money will also go to help supporting me and the channel. And on top of all of that, I do have a Twitch account over on twitch.tv/Zenitsu, so giving me a follow and a subscription also helps support me there, and I do play Digimon on top of various other games on that platform as well. So thank you everyone for watching, and as always, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more content, and I'll see you in the next video.